Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Thursday, December 11th, 2025. We got to do a show. I'm preparing for the show, sort of. You know how it goes, preparing for the show. About 5 minutes ago, I started talking with Greg, and he said, we got to cover this area. And I said, all right, well, I guess I better read about that a little bit and make sure I can add some detail that will help things out. That's the preparation. It is preparation. And of course, look, the expertise, such as it is that we provide here, is I can read that thing 5 minutes before the show and say, all right, I think I can explain that now. Whereas I guess I should by now fully recognize, all right, a lot of people would read that, and while they might be able to tell me how to, let's say, do open heart surgery or launch a rocket to the moon, they might be able to read this thing and pronounce the words, although that's not always, I guess, the case. But figuring out, all right, well, what does that mean? How is this going to work in a way that I can understand it? Well, all right, that's different. So that's what the 5 minute rule. The 5 minute rule here is this is how long you have to figure out what's going on. I think we can do it because we do it all the time. That's one of those things about specialization and the doctrine of relative advantage, if you want to put it in economic terms. All right, so it's time for another show, and this is a show about politics in the United States of America, and it's changed quite in dramatic ways lately, so it's difficult to follow. We used to say, well, there's a written constitution and a system of laws, and that has fallen by the wayside. And now, as it turns out, I think maybe with one of the really core founding principles of the country, property rights, may also have fallen by the wayside in the last 24 hours. And we've returned to just chaos on the high seas and piracy. So that's cool. We'll probably talk about that a little bit as well, because it seems like an important development disguised as a relatively, well, I guess it's still a major international incident. When you seize another country's international trade vessels on the high seas, although the Caribbean Sea is not all that high, I guess. But somebody was high and said, yeah, you should go and just seize an oil tanker. So far, all I know about it, except I'm sure we'll read a little bit more about it, is that Donald Trump was asked about it yesterday and said, yeah, I guess we're going to keep the oil now. So, it's just a little piracy. That is, by the way, one of the things that he thinks is probably one of the worst things about one of the worst S-hole countries that he hates so much, because Ilhan Omar comes from Somalia, and Somalia has piracy, and that's what makes it so terrible. But here in America, we have very lucrative piracy, I guess. I don't know. We're taking our cues from the olden days. Things used to work this way, although they did take care to pretend that those guys were just freelancers, privateers, I guess, right? England didn't seize your ship, Your Majesty, Prince Philip of Spain, let's say. Some pirates did. And we kept all the money in it, and we pardoned the pirates. But other than that, it really, it wasn't us. But okay. All right. We'll get to that. That stuff is easier to understand in terms of everyone knows what it means to just steal stuff from other people. The complicated stuff is when you're trying to help people pay for their health care rather than push them off a cliff in 3 weeks. So, we've got that to cover, and we better get right to it. And if we really need to get to it, we need to keep things short and introduce Greg Dworkin. Good morning, Imperial Margarine. Your Imperial Margarine-ness, Greg. How you doing?
It's not nice to fool Mother Nature.
Right. We need that one too. All right. Well, we got.
Well, that's
I do have the horror dramatic, right? We can just do that, right, and not play the music. Okay.
Frau Blucher.
It isn't nice, by the way, to fool Mother Nature, which is why Donald Trump says, let's fool Mother Nature a lot. I mean, that's what RFK Jr. is up to. Right. Listen, we don't need your vaccines.
So a couple of quick items before we really get into it. One quickie is from Scott McFarlane.
Hello, Scott.
Who follows law and legal issues. It's now been a full week, he says, since the arrest in a blockbuster whodunit but the FBI has not yet revealed the alleged motive of the January 6th Capitol pipe bomb suspect.
Well, come on.
Now, I thought he planted the bomb on January 5th.
Yes.
Why is that important? Because Trump pardoned everybody on January 6th, but this wasn't January 6th.
Oh, yeah, that's a good. Well, it was in Australia.
Yeah.
Possibly.
So, he's pardoned in Australia. And they've said zero about whether Brian Cole had any connection to the Capitol riot. And court delay is imminent because the Justice Department said we need to postpone the detention hearing because there's so much discovery to go through. That may be, but they seem to be also reluctant to actually discuss what's going on here after the big splashy "it was all Biden's fault" press conference they had where Pam Bondi and Bongino and Patel and Janine Pirro, all congratulated each other for 45 minutes and then said it was all Biden's fault because this guy was sitting there in plain daylight and they did nothing, even though it just takes time to go through these things. So we've talked about this, in the last two shows, I think, and last week. But the only thing Trump has is to blame everything on Biden. And we faulted Biden for not blaming everything on Trump, his predecessor.
Yes.
But this is how it works. And so you saw that on full display at that FBI press conference, if you happen to watch it. I know you didn't. You hate those things.
Right. Also, it was probably on, there was a cartoon or something.
It was the middle of the day. It was like 11:30 or something.
I'm sure I was watching cartoons.
Yeah, and I watched some of it, and, that's the way it went. So I just thought I would mention that Brian Cole is a Trump supporter. They just don't want to tell you that. That's not a conspiracy
I don't know why
theory.
they're
That's
not
what the
telling
reporting says.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, that's what he was doing. I know it wasn't January 6th.
He's of no use to them if it's not a lefty Antifa guy.
Right, that's true. What are you doing in Washington, D.C. on January 5th if you're not either a member of the Electoral College, and they don't actually go to D.C., or you're there for the riot? I'm here for the riot tomorrow, but I checked in
He's a black
tonight.
conservative, and it's exactly what they don't want to feature, so they're really trying not to talk about it. On the other hand, they may need a court delay because those things happen. So there's that.
Sure.
Okay. There's also, speaking of cartoons, there's always Schoolhouse Rock and how does a bill become a law and all that sort of stuff.
Know.
And yesterday, a bill passed. I think it was yesterday. It's hard to say because everything, like, time is compressed.
Yeah, really. Right.
But the House actually did something, and they passed the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, a so-called must-pass bill.
Right.
After arguing about the rule and after arguing about passage of the rule, they finally folded, and the conservatives gave up as they always do. And it's interesting that it's the conservatives that always fold these days in the House.
Huh.
So the bill passes, but two things of interest are in that bill.
Oh.
One of them is a demand that Pete Hegseth turn over all the information he has, including video,
I don't have any.
On the boat September 2nd war crime. Otherwise, they withhold 25% of his travel budget.
Right, yeah.
I mean, and they also compel the department to consult with lawmakers before withdrawing U.S. troops from Europe or South Korea, according to the Washington Post, and before restructuring America's vast military commands around the world. So they're starting to put some teeth into, we're not going to pay you if you don't pay attention to previous precedent. I can't call it a rule, but that's the first time they've done that.
Yes, that's the first time we've seen
that in the Senate. But I'm just saying, it's all part and parcel of Republican rebellion, which is what we're going to talk about for the next hour.
Rebellion.
Wait
a minute, there was some music when. Oh no, well, not the rebellion. But if we need to crush the rebellion, I have music for that.
Well, how about
just saying, it's unprepared.
Yeah, well, maybe we can go to Ken Burns and find something about the Civil War and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
he has a lot of good music there.
Sure,
very
famous piece.
Some lonesome fiddler in the background.
I can get it. And I don't know how you pronounce it, but I know how to spell it, and I can look it up on YouTube and get it. And then we'll hear a little Liberty Mutual music, and then the Civil War music.
Right. So let's talk about a recurring theme because I just am fascinated by this whole process. Discharge petitions. A motion to discharge.
This is not really a recurring theme usually, but it is right now.
It has been.
Holy cow.
A motion to discharge something from the Rules Committee who usually bottles it up because usually the Rules Committee is the Speaker's Committee, except not in this 119th Congress.
I say we discharge Virginia Fox from the Rules Committee. Get her out of there.
So Jamie Dupree writes, 13 Republicans joined all Democrats to force action on a plan from Representative Jared Golden, Democrat Maine, to nullify a Trump executive order that stripped labor rights from federal workers. You don't see that kind of vote every day in the House, and my response to that is, yeah, you do, and we'll talk about that. But on a motion to discharge, H-Res 432, Republicans 13 yay, Democrats 209 yay. No nays for the Democrat, 200 nays for the Republicans. 222-200, the resolution passes, and Jared Golden's motion to discharge forces House leadership to do something they apparently didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And in doing so, our friend, conservative reporter Robert George says, Johnson has effectively lost control of the House. Multiple discharge petitions passing is unusual.
Yes, to say the least.
And this is the second one because the Epstein one was recent.
That's unusual! It is.
I like that.
Steven Universe cartoon, as it happens.
Yeah, okay.
One of the
it
new
is
ones.
Unusual.
It is. This is a great exclamation, and they use it frequently. There's music, too, but...
Okay, so there's that.
Yes, there is.
There's the Anna Paulina Luna discharge petition, which
her
is sitting out there, but only in the news because Marjorie Taylor Green said, I'm signing Anna Paulina Luna's discharge petition to prohibit stock trading and ownership by members of Congress. And because I decided I'm going to sign every discharge petition from now until I leave because I'm sick and tired of this stupid leadership doing everything.
To
block the regular members from going through regular order. So I am going to sign. I don't care whether I support the petition or not. I'm signing it.
Well, what the hell is supposed to do, you moron?
I just thought I'd throw that in there.
I know, but that's an amazing thing. I did not expect that. What an
interesting idea. I mean, well, I guess, look, it's Marjorie Taylor Green, so there's nothing, it's not going to be brilliant. Like, it won't do anything.
Nancy Mace is going to change her mind the next day, and it's not Victoria Sparks, who's going to change her mind every hour.
It's just a thing that's
she's going to do this, and she, in fact, went ahead and signed those petitions.
I mean, sure. For a moment, I'll just pause and say, one, the discharge petition thing is very hot right now. And like I said, because you pointed out the example, Robert George says he's lost control of the House. And he has, because in decades, it's often decades in between successful discharge petitions. And now this will be like the third or fourth in a few weeks, by the way, but certainly in this Congress. And Anna Paulina Luna, who's nuts, will have two, which is amazing. So it's definitely weird. So, okay, now they have new prominence. And so now her threat, I'm going to sign the discharge. If any other year, like if you had said a resigning member of Congress is going to pitch a fit and just going to throw a monkey wrench in the operation of everything, sand in all the gears. How? I'm going to sign every discharge petition there is. And what? So what? So you're going to be the 189th signature on discharge petitions that have been languishing for
sometimes
years?
Sometimes the 17th.
Yeah, right. Nothing. It doesn't make any difference. She's not going to be the 218th signature on any of them, more than likely.
Yeah.
But
she came close to being that on the Epstein one, so it does matter.
It's kind of all right. So anyway, this is just. It's interesting that she's still such an idiot. She's pitching a fit. I'm going to do something really radical, and we're told. I mean, it's true. It's kind of radical to use discharge petitions, and the leadership frowns on your signing them. But it's supposed to, it's because they're afraid something's going to happen, and if nothing's going to happen,
putting your finger in the eye of the
House
majority of the House Speaker is basically what it is.
And but in a way, in most
public
cases,
ways, everybody could follow what I'm doing because I want everybody to understand this guy sucks.
Yeah, it's just that in most ways it'll be like I put my finger in the eye of the leadership. In a manner of speaking. Yes, it didn't change. The discharge petition didn't succeed, and it never came close. But there was a news story about you signing it because you're doing something weird and dumb, signing all of them, even for things you disagree with.
But here's the thing.
It's cool.
Okay,
though.
so those of you who want to play along at home, you can play
Yeah.
this game at home. You can go to the U.S. House of Representatives clerk page.
Yes.
Clerk.house.gov, discharge petition /discharge petition. And you could look at the 12 or 13
98
petitions there aren't more than that are just languishing there. Anna Paulina Luna's stock trading petition has 41 signatures. What's important about that is 14 of them are Republicans. If the Democrats decided as a bloc, which they haven't, to sign on to this petition, then it will succeed.
Yes.
I'm just pointing that out. So Marjorie Taylor Green threatening to sign a petition that might succeed is different than Marjorie Taylor Green threatening to sign any petition, including the one that has 3 names and isn't going to get 4.
Yeah. What you're looking for is, are there any discharge petitions out there that have 3 Republicans on them and then a bunch of Democrats, and she's going to go provide the 4th one that pushes them possibly over the top if all the Democrats then go and do it? All right, that's consequential, and in such a narrowly divided House, actually it is, I guess, a little more of a threat than usual, given how hot the petitions are, to say I'm going to put it out there that you're going to have at least one Republican signature on every single one of these things.
Right. But but I can give you one that has, which is germane and important, and has 5 Republican signatures, not including her.
Who cares about her then?
Because the next thing we're going to talk about is this article from Politico. Frustrated Republicans move to force Obamacare vote as warnings mount about the midterms. So we had those elections. We spent yesterday talking about those elections where the Democrats won.
That's what Wednesdays
but here's
are.
the thing. Okay, and I go back to what I said Monday or last week or whatever.
Yeah.
When the Democratic position on the shutdown was, we're not giving you the ability to open the government until such time as you let us vote on health care.
Yes.
They stuck to their guns. Of course, they had to relent at some point. It was inartful in terms of how it ended. But it's so clear, it's become conventional wisdom now that the Democrats won the argument.
They do say that a lot now.
Really rare situation where the Democrats were the holdouts, they're the ones that forced the shutdown. They won the argument because the only thing the Republicans are talking about now is health care in various and sundry ways.
All right.
A group of House Republicans moved to force a vote on extending Obamacare health insurance subsidies that will expire in just 3 weeks, directly challenging party leaders who appear determined to let them lapse. At least 6 Republicans signed a discharge petition Wednesday, that's yesterday, on a bill authored by Fitzpatrick and Golden, Fitzpatrick, Republican, Pennsylvania, Golden, Democrat, Maine, that would extend the expiring tax credits for 2 years. Keep that 2-year thing in mind. While imposing new eligibility requirements. The subsidies are currently used by more than 20 million Americans. Now, there are 3 separate discharge petitions, as I understand it, regarding the Affordable Care Act, although we're going to talk in a moment about some of the slimy details about trying to figure out what these bills actually say.
All right.
We have a 3-year extension that Hakeem Jeffries wants, and that's the Democratic official position, although they know no Republican will vote for that, and so it's not going anywhere.
3-year? Okay.
There's a 2-year, which Fitzpatrick and Golden are suggesting, and in order to push this, they are doing a discharge petition. And their particular discharge petition has some Democrats on it. In fact, quite a number. Joe Courtney from Connecticut, for example, Ted Lieu.
Which one is their petition?
And they've got, as of this morning, it was like 40 last time I looked. This discharge petition now has 216 signatures.
Oh, all right. So that's too shy of what's needed.
So that exploded overnight.
Which one is? Let me go to their page, that discharge petition page.
Sorry. This is this the one? No, this is the Jared Golden one to move the committee to the Federal Labor Relations Act. Sorry.
All right.
So that's the one that's actually passing. That's the one that I just said passed.
Yeah.
The Fitzpatrick Golden one, which would be discharge petition number 12 of 13, filed on December 10th, currently has 14 signatures on it, including Marjorie Taylor Greene's.
Okay.
It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm counting 11 Republicans and 2 Democrats.
Okay.
Okay. This is the 2-year extension.
Oh.
And it's only got 3 Democrats on it, Golden and Swazi and Don Davis from North Carolina. And the reason it only has 3 Democrats on it is because House leadership under Hakeem Jeffries wants his own 3-year extension, or the alternative, which is also being offered and is also new as of yesterday, from Josh Gottheimer, Democrat from New Jersey, and Jen Kiggins, Virginia, too, from a Republican. And that's a 1-year extension.
What? Oh,
so there's a 1-year extension on the table in the discharge petition. There's a 2-year extension, and there's a 3-year extension. Each separate discharge petitions. The 3-year is Hakeem Jeffries' baby. That's not going anywhere because Republicans won't sign on. But now the argument is between the 2-year and the 1-year, and here's where it gets a little complicated. So follow along.
It's like shopping at Best Buy. I'm very confused. How long should I buy a
two-year
protection plan for? Yes.
Has more discharge petition signatures.
Okay.
The 1-year extension has at least 38 co-sponsors on the actual bill, according to reporting, and has the better chance of passing.
I see.
And Jeffries is interested maybe in that one. That currently only has 6 signatures on it, but 5 of them are Republicans.
Yeah.
Lawler, Valadeo, Kiggins, Ryan McKenzie of Pennsylvania, and Brian Fitzpatrick, who also is the sponsor of the other one.
Where's Marjorie Taylor Green?
She hasn't signed this one yet.
It takes a long time.
She will.
To do this
and she will, especially if this is the one that turns out to be the vehicle.
Yeah. I don't need her, I guess. If they get a whole 212 plus healthy Democrats together quickly enough. But yeah.
Right.
We'll
so
take
the reason that these 2 discharge petitions, the 1-year extension and the 2-year extension, haven't ripened yet, succeeded, whatever you call it in legislative language, is because Hakeem Jeffries is holding his party to decide which one he wants to sign it.
All right. Have a meeting.
Because here are the considerations. If you do a 1-year, which is why Jeffries favors it, it's still an election year issue. And then when you win the House, you get to redo it.
Yes.
If it's a 2-year, then the issue sort of falls off the table for a while. And so the question for the Democrats and Democratic leadership is, do you want to make this an issue and stick it to the Republicans because 60% of the people who need these subsidies are in red states?
Right.
Or do you want to help people?
Yeah. Right. And we had this issue of a 1-year extension of being on the table during the shutdown. And it was so interesting to see where some people were saying, let's do it this way so that it's an issue again next year. And other people saying 1 year, that sucks. That doesn't help anybody. I can't plan anything. So, same issue. So
now they have to decide because it has to go one way or the other.
I knew there was something.
0, 1, 2, or 3. It's got to be one of those.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought I was done saying, well, it's an issue. We'll see you next week. We're out of time. But no, you're right. They have to decide.
However, when you step back and look at the bigger picture, the Democrats have successfully maneuvered Republicans into making sure that healthcare is an issue, that they are seen to be responsible, that they are forced, despite their inclinations, to do something about it. These are the moderates forcing the conservatives who don't want to do any kind of extension
That's crazy.
into something. And again, to put this in focus, you have to step back and bring up, I hate to, because I can't stand him, Dennis Hastert.
I hate that guy. I do. He's terrible.
He's terrible.
Right?
Dennis Hastert popularized the idea that we're only doing things with the majority of the majority.
Right. Okay. That's the one acceptable idea
members to do that. But the point is that Mike Johnson is incapable, emotionally, physically, whatever you want to call it, politically, incapable of getting anything done by having a bipartisan bill pass the House. He can't. He'll lose his speakership.
Yeah, it makes it look bad.
You have to have all Republicans and a couple of Democrats, or just all Republicans and no Democrats, to do anything in Mike Johnson's mind. The idea that 90% of his conference doesn't want extensions at all, but 10% does, and that 10% plus Democrats means pass the bill.
Right.
He hates that. That's exactly how he doesn't want to govern.
Yes. And I would almost say for good reason if it was somebody else. But that is, of course, why he is the speaker, is everybody got tired of Kevin McCarthy allowing bills to pass that way. So
and John
let's get rid of
before him.
Yeah. So we'll get rid of them and replace him with the guy who won't let anything happen. And it is still happening.
He won't even let the House stay in session. He
right.
kept him out for too much.
Abandon the whole thing then.
Be careful what you wish for. You may get it. You know, America deserves democracy, and they deserve it good and hard, as H.L. Mencken used to say.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, good. He's losing control. Fantastic.
So he's losing
Maybe he
control,
never had it.
I think that's a BFD.
It is, of course. Absolutely. Yeah. It is interesting that just, you know, in a time when we're so worried about the survival of democracy, it is interesting, at least, I guess, to be able to watch, like Jeff Goldblum's character saying, life finds a way, democracy finds a way, right? I'm going to install a Speaker of the House dedicated to the death of democracy. And there are people who are finding legislative paths around him. That's pretty impressive.
Right. So, Political Playbook said today, the bigger picture, more Republicans appear open to some sort of extension, clearly worried about political blowback when premiums spike next month.
I am glad.
But it remains to be seen if enough members can get behind any one plan. Well, they can't get behind any one plan of their own. And clearly there are enough discharge petition signatures from Republicans to have either the 2-year or the 1-year extension pass.
Mm-hmm.
So today in the Senate, they're actually going to vote on a 3-year extension. The Democrats propose it'll fail.
Yeah.
Then some nonsense HSA health savings accounts that'll also fail. And then we'll get down to what's really going on.
Hi, everybody. It's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and patreon.com, patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We're gaming out, and it really is a game to figure out which direction to go in and what strategy should come out of it. They're going to have some meetings, and meetings are chaotic, but decisions frequently come out of them when it's Democratic meetings.
Right. So, but let's come at this with a different angle here.
All right.
So, which one is the more popular position in the House? The discharge petition that has more signatures on it at the current time, or the bill that has more co-sponsors? And my answer, being an amateur at this, is the discharge petition doesn't matter because both of them have sufficient Republicans on it so that whenever the Democrats throw their weight behind it, that's the one that's passing. And that's up to Hakeem Jeffries and his caucus, because Democrats have a caucus and Republicans have a conference.
They're going to confer as a caucus.
And they're going to confer as a caucus, and they'll decide what they want to do.
Yeah. All right. So a little bit of conferencing, a little bit of caucusing.
Yeah.
A little bit of caulking in the new bathroom.
A lot of asking Nancy Pelosi, what should we do?
Yeah. All right. And then the other question is, you said, does it color our decision at all If you can't decide as between 1 year or 2 years because you see relative advantages in both, do you go with the one that has more co-sponsors for the underlying bill on the assumption that that's the more popular legislation? But I don't know. It's hard to measure. It's a good starting point. But yeah, right. You might say, no, I support that thing. I just, I haven't gotten around to co-sponsoring it, but I'm totally going to vote for it. So it's a very rough measure, especially for a relatively new bill, to say, well, this one has 38 co-sponsors and that one has 20. Like I would say, that's roughly equal. If it's 1 and even 25, 1 versus 25, well, okay, you've shopped it around a little bit at least. And this one with 1 co-sponsor means you haven't.
Right.
So
this
might not tell us anything.
This next section here, I talked with David about a little bit before the show, but this is just one of those things I like to have fun with because I just like understanding some of this stuff.
Right.
Okay.
And,
so if you go to the clerk, United States House of Representatives, and let's just pick, I don't know, discharge petition number 12, which is the Brian K. Fitzpatrick version. This is the 2-year extension. Okay. And the clerk allows you either to view the petition.
Great.
And the wording on the petition, I love this, motion to discharge a committee from the consideration of a resolution entitled A Resolution Providing for Consideration of the Bill to Advance Common Sense Priorities. Now, if you think that tells you anything,
no, good
for you.
Right. If you think that, great. I'll party at your house. It doesn't mean anything, but, Okay.
But, this is, you also have to keep in the back of your mind Groucho and Chico discussing contracts in A Night at the Opera. Mm-hmm. The party of the first part in this contract shall be known as the party of the first part. No, I don't like it. Rip it off. Okay. Discharge petition number 12, this Brian K. Fitzpatrick 2-year extension, also on the clerk's page has an option, view the actual bill.
Oh, all right.
So the actual bill is H.R. 3001.
Okay.
Consideration of the bill to advance common sense priorities.
All right.
Okay. And then it allows you to look at the text. And the text of H.Res. 486, which is to consider the bill H.R. 3001 to advance common sense priorities, says immediately upon adoption of the resolution, the House shall proceed to the consideration in the House of the bill. Yeah. And then Section 2 says, Clause 1C of Rule 19 shall not apply, whatever that means.
No, not that rule. It's my favorite
You probably
rule.
know. I don't know.
I don't know.
But Section 3 is my favorite part. This is the upper part.
Ah.
The amendment in the nature of a substitute referred to in the first section of this resolution is an amendment in the nature of a substitute received for printing in the congressional record. If more than one such amendment is submitted, then only the last amendment submitted shall be considered as adopted. So that gives you a chance to take this bill and write on it whatever you want, even though there's nothing there.
Okay.
That's it. That's the entire H.Res. 486.
Yeah.
Now, if you try to look up H.R. 3001, maybe you could find it. Maybe you can't. I don't know. You can't find the other one, the 1-year extension. That doesn't exist.
Okay.
So there's a lot of taking a bill that already exists and then rewriting it for your purposes. And you explained to me before the show that sometimes that's done to make sure that whatever you're doing, whatever vehicle has been there long enough so they can't block it, claiming, well, you only had it up there for 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yes, right. One of the things about the discharge petition is, remember, what you're doing is saying, I'm sick and tired of waiting. The leadership has bottled up my bill, and I have a majority of members in favor of it, and why won't you bring it to the floor?
It's been there for over an hour.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's 30 days, right? It has to be languishing long enough that there's a good reason for a discharge petition. So you can't submit a bill and then go to discharge it right away. You got to wait. Or if you don't have time to wait because you're going to, everybody's going to lose their health care in 2 weeks, you do this, right? You're going to discharge a totally different bill. But remember, you're not discharging the bill, you're discharging a rule for the consideration of the bill. So you short circuit things. And part of the thing you can do is in the rule, you say, under this rule, the text of this bill that's been around for 30 days is hereby erased and replaced with this healthcare bill instead. Okay. But that hasn't been languishing for 30 days. No, but the other piece of paper has. And look, you say that doesn't make any sense. You can change what day it is on the calendar in this place. All right.
Yes. If you have the gavel, it makes sense.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's a short circuit if you find yourself with, 2 weeks left before recess to save healthcare in America, and you don't have the 30 days to wait because you just had a brilliant idea that you didn't let languish for long enough. You say, I'm going to take somebody else's brilliant idea, a volunteer, that's fine. My bill doesn't go anywhere. Use mine. Erase it. Right. And that may be what they did here. Okay.
So this is Laura Weiss reporting to step back and look at the big picture here. Kiggins and Gottheimer have formally introduced their bill for an enhanced ACA subsidy patch, which we scooped, over at Punchbowl. It has 38 co-sponsors, a big number of backers. The challenge is the path to the floor. There's likely not one without a discharge petition. That's how come we've been talking about discharge petitions.
Yeah.
But that particular bill seems to be popular, in quotes. I don't know how many Democratic and Republican co-sponsors there are, but if you go through a discharge petition that has enough Republicans on it, the Democrats clearly can make this happen if they so choose.
Mm-hmm. Okay, they just have to choose which one.
Right. This is Punchbowl reporting this morning.
You could sign them all.
House Republicans struggled for more than an hour Wednesday, it was yesterday, to pass a rule to begin debate on the NDAA, which ultimately passed. In order to flip hardline conservatives, including Anna Paulina Luna, Johnson had to call Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And Rubio agreed to look at the NGOs that are funneling money to the Taliban, and so the conservatives supposedly were mollified by that. Separately, GOP moderates wanted to hear from Johnson on whether he'd put a bill on the floor to extend enhanced Obamacare premium subsidies, a huge political and policy problem for Republicans, I would add, made worse by Democrats winning the shutdown argument.
And then winning a bunch of elections.
Yeah. Unsatisfied with his answer, these Republican moderates dropped the discharge petition to go over Johnson's head. Actually, they dropped two. Live discharge petitions, which effectively stripped power from the GOP leadership, have become more common than ever in Johnson's House. The sheer number of successful discharge petitions is stunning and shows just how poor the outlook is for Johnson and his top lieutenants. Remember what happened with the Jeffrey Epstein vote. Consider this. Jared Golden will get a vote today on a bill overturning Trump's executive order barring federal workers from collective bargaining rights. 5 Republicans signed on to it. The measure will pass the House, although it won't pass the Senate, but we'll see it come up again during January's government funding fights, because, again, we're doing this again in January.
Yeah.
Luna is among a bipartisan group of members pushing a discharge petition to institute a stock trading ban. The petition only has 41 signatures, including 14 Republicans, but during the NDAA standoff, Luna was able to extract a promise from Johnson to put a stock trading ban on the floor, so she might not even need that discharge petition.
Yeah, they love to try to disarm those if they can.
Right. Frustrated with Johnson's inaction, Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican Pennsylvania, has a discharge petition to extend the enhanced Obamacare premium subsidies. That's the 2-year. Fitzpatrick, a swing district centrist, has enough Republican signatures to win a floor vote. What Democrats do here remains to be seen, lending credence to the argument that the minority has major sway on the House floor. I'm just making the point, Mike Johnson's terrible at his job.
Yes, that's easy to see.
5 Republicans have already joined Josh Gottheimer, Democrat, New Jersey, on a different discharge petition for a bill that would extend the Obamacare subsidies for a year. That means the effort also has enough GOP backing to be successful if Democrats back it. The House Democratic leadership prefers this petition to Fitzpatrick's. We talked about maybe why. We don't really know. This new petition or Fitzpatrick's method, either the 2-year or the 1-year, could feasibly reach 18 signatures, the magic number, starving Johnson of his ability to set the party's course on health care. Johnson rightfully understands the vast majority of House Republicans aren't in favor of extending the Obamacare tax credits, and that's because they're horrible people. I just really need to point this out. That have been at the heart of the House tumult over the last few months, but there's certainly enough House Republicans who could pair with Democrats to renew the subsidies at some point. Johnson, Scalise, and Emmer are trying to create their own plan. That's going nowhere. As Trump once said, healthcare is complicated. They had 15 years to do it. They're not going to do it in 2 weeks. What's concerning many House Republicans in the GOP leadership, Johnson has said he will stretch the healthcare debate straight into the second quarter of next year. There isn't any Republican who thinks that's a good idea. In fact, they don't want the GOP talking about healthcare. It is their absolute worst issue during an election year. Maybe it's the worst issue. Maybe it's the economy. That's a toss-up there.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, the Indiana Senate is expected to vote on the state's new congressional map today. It's supposed to be a close race. Trump is already expecting that he's going to lose.
Good.
The reason I say that is because he did a Truth Social post about it, which I gave you, which is insane, and therefore I should read it to you.
All right. Or I could read it.
Truth Social post on X. You can read it if you wish. It was 10 December 2027 ET, that is to say it was last night.
Okay.
You want it?
Yeah, sure. Is it not up here yet?
It's on the list.
It's on the list? Oh. Wait a minute. I think
Commentary Trump Truth Social post.
Yeah, there it is.
X.
Commentary. I love the state of Indiana, that one.
That's the one.
Oh, my God. This is so long. Really? But all right. He's screaming, I guess. I love the state of Indiana.
You have to understand he's insane.
That's true. And I've won it, including primaries 6 times, all by massive majorities. Importantly, it now has the chance. He's got a new writer, I think. It now has a chance to make a difference in Washington, D.C. in regard to the number of House seats that we have. The number of House seats we have that are necessary to hold the majority. He doesn't understand what he's talking about. Against the radical left Democrats. He wants more seats out of them, Republican seats. Every other state has done redistricting willingly, openly, and easily, and that's not true either. There was never a question in their mind that contributing to a win in the midterms for the Republicans was a great thing to do for our party, F the country, of course, and for America itself. In all fairness, the Democrats have been doing redistricting for years. No, and continue to do so. Unfortunately, Indiana Senate, quote, leader Rod Bray enjoys being the only person in the United States of America who's against Republicans picking up extra seats. I'm against it too. In Indiana's case, 2 of them. He is putting every ounce of his limited strength into asking his soon-to-be very vulnerable friends to vote with him. By doing so, he is putting the majority in the House of Representatives, Washington, D.C., at risk, and at the same time, putting anybody in Indiana who votes against this redistricting likewise at risk. The people of Indiana don't want the party of sleepy Joe Biden, Kamala, Ilhan Omar, or the rest. Hey, he left AOC out of this one. And Zoran Mamdani. Or the rest to succeed in Washington. Bray doesn't care. He's either a bad guy or a very stupid one. In any event, this goes on. Are you sure you want me to continue? I'm not going to do it.
But you get the idea. He talked about failed Senate candidate Mitch Daniels,
I am only halfway
Nancy
through
Pelosi,
this.
crying Chuck Schumer. Anybody that votes against redistricting and the success of the Republican Party will be, I am sure, met with a MAGA primary in the spring.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that this does not sound
not.
like the post of somebody confident of winning today.
Oh, no, that's true. It really doesn't sound like the post of somebody who has passed 3 cognitive tests either.
Right. Now, speaking of cognitive tests,
are we?
It would be irresponsible not to speculate. We don't have any information on this, but I saw a pretty credible case made that the problem with Trump is Alzheimer's. He's getting Alzheimer's drugs. That's why he always has bruises on his hand.
Yes,
getting MRIs, and he keeps getting recurrent cognition tests, the Indiana test.
Is that what they call it? That's funny. No wonder he's so upset about Indiana. You got to get rid of this Indiana test.
Maybe it's the Alabama test. Maybe it's Tommy Tuberville.
That is an easy test, I must say. What time do you think it is? I don't know. You win. All right. Yeah. Well. Right. The rumor I keep saying about the new drug ideas. Well, this one, I guess the indications are you get it by IV, so maybe that's where the bruised hand thing, and that you get it. They check you by MRI a couple times. I don't know if that's really true. It doesn't sound. I don't know anything about it. If you say the follow-up treatment is give them some MRIs to see if this drug you're pumping into the person is, I don't know, effed you up even worse, or whether you're getting better. Fine, I guess, maybe. I have no way of knowing.
In a lengthy post on his
I'll
Truth
take
Social platform, Trump late
lengthy.
Tuesday said it's seditious and perhaps even treasonous for the New York Times and other news outlets
a different one.
to write fake stories about his health.
Right. Yeah, that was a different long screed, right?
I go out of my way, he says, to take long, thorough, and very boring medical examinations before noting he has undergone cognitive tests on 3 separate occasions. I aced all of them.
Yeah.
I've been told few people have been able to ace this exam, because usually when you're giving it to people, it's because you're really worried about what's going on.
Yeah, this is, can you function independently?
It's the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, it's called.
Montreal, oh, no wonder.
Yeah,
Canadian.
That's the formal name of it. I call it the Indiana test because
it's hard to pass.
He showed that in his post about Indiana.
That could be it. Right. It's difficult to pass because it's in metric.
You know, questions on you may be familiar with some of these. Draw a clock, identify pictures of metric animals. Clock. You know, I got a score of 30 out of 30. Nobody's ever done this strongly before. You know, that kind of thing.
It's an amazing thing for him to say about a cognitive test.
Right.
All right.
Why do they keep doing MRIs and cognitive tests on him? Plus, he has bruising on his hands. So they put all this information together and said, you know what? He's probably got Alzheimer's.
Well, it's certainly possible and likely. There's certainly some cognitive
sheer speculation. I'm saying it would be irresponsible not to speculate.
Right.
I'm not doing a Bill Frist and saying this is what he has. I'm just saying.
No.
You know,
I'm just saying
this
that
is what
Bill
people
Frist
are saying. A
would
lot of people
say
are saying
this
this
is what he has. That's all I'm
Everyone's saying.
Yeah. Look, he's falling apart. Everyone can see it. They're even beginning to write about it now. I bet you could even get Jake Tapper to admit it now.
Right.
All right. So good, except for the fact that he's the president of the United States and seizing, oil tankers now.
Yeah. What he doesn't want to talk about is affordability. What he doesn't want to talk about is
sometimes
the
he does
economy.
Want to talk about it. Right. That's part of the reason. That's another good reason to think maybe he has Alzheimer's is that at 5:00 he says affordability is a Democrat hoax. And at 6:00 he says, I'm giving a speech about affordability.
Yeah. The A++++ economy.
Yeah.
Says Kristen Soltis Anderson, Republican pollster, is bad for Trump. It's Trump who's claiming that voters should not believe their own wallets, calling the issue of affordability a con job, she says, by Democrats. The same trap that caught Mr. Biden has now ensnared the president. What's crucial to understand about Mr. Trump's poor approval numbers is, unlike during his last time in the White House, people now disapprove of him because of the economy, not in spite of it. During his first term, everybody, she goes on to say, hated him for COVID, his style, his approach. But the economy was good because he was left with a good economy by the last president before him.
Yeah.
And so that was a bright spot, and people just convinced themselves, well, if we only bring him back, we can have that economy again. Sure. As if COVID didn't change the world. As if presidents are responsible for the economy. So they ignored everything else they knew, pretended that they believed what he said, and hoped for a good economy. They're not getting it.
I see.
They're not
Too
getting
bad.
it. It's ominous territory, she says, but how ominous? For one thing, we should view it in the context of the current political climate. Job approval has typically been a strong signal of the country's political mood, not anymore because it's all partisan. You can't get 70% approval like Jimmy Carter did, let alone what George W. Bush got. Job approval percentages today tend to remain in a narrow band. As a result, while presidents in the 20th century often saw 60 or higher, presidents of the past 2 decades generally get in the 40s. So therefore, Trump wasn't alarmed by his 42%. But affordability has slipped away from Trump as an issue of strength. Recent polling shows voters assessing his impact on the economy in the same way they rated Biden. 15% of respondents saying in a Fox News poll last month they thought Trump's economic policies had helped them personally. His advisors reportedly understand that the political danger is real. They're urging him to shift course. They're the ones that want him on an affordability is a hoax tour. With the clip of him saying, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, and maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. That's not terrible. You only need 2 pencils, not 27.
Right. One in each ear.
Inexplicably, she says, remember, she's a Republican pollster. An honest one, but a Republican nonetheless. Inexplicably, he doubled down on this terrible message at a rally on Tuesday night, seemingly determined to hand Democrats a gift. Then Democrats Republicans and the like Americans who are holiday shopping will be looking closely at prices. And if Trump is to win back the issue of affordability, as if he could, but remember, she's a Republican, and boost his job approval rating, he must carefully thread the needle his predecessor was unable to, rather than dismiss it as a con job. In other words, Trump has to be a completely different person.
All right. Well, if other than that,
he should consider rolling back tariffs. Not happening.
Very few people can thread needles. It's a new
Eggs
thing.
Eggs may be cheaper today than they were a year
needles.
ago. Again, that's bird flu. But many things people pay for are not, like beef. And the job approval numbers for Trump reflect that pain. So that's what's going on in the world, my friends.
Yeah, beef is not what's for dinner. It's too expensive. And, all right, interesting, too. And so this big rally, that was, by the way, I guess it doesn't mean anything in particular, but it keeps sticking in my mind that it was in Pennsylvania. And that since we were talking so much about the discharge petitions, Brian Fitzpatrick, Mr. Moderate with the discharge petition on healthcare, a Pennsylvania Republican, not too far away from where they actually had, it wasn't his district or anything where they had the rally, but it's both of them Eastern Pennsylvania. The rally a little further north than Fitzpatrick's district, but kind of interesting. That's the swing district for you. That's what makes it swingy. You can have both a Republican doing a discharge petition for a 2-year extension of Obamacare subsidies and the site of a lunatic affordability is a hoax plus I hate brown people rally, 2 for 1 in the same state. Within an hour's drive, the two districts. So it's interesting, to say the least, what dynamics they have in Pennsylvania, which I guess is why you have Fettermans and Shapiro's also in the same state. It's weird. Pennsyltucky, as they used to call it, it's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's a James Carville term, and it certainly fits. It's the T between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
Whew. All right. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot to consider. We'll have to see how these discharge petitions shake out. There's not a lot of time left to sign everything, but they'll have their decision made. I don't know. Maybe they could say, everybody go sign all of them, and then we'll just decide which one we want to do. Everybody sign up to 217 and then stop. And then that way we can execute this thing quickly once we decide what we're going to do.
Right.
It'll be
so I'm going to end with a comment. Yoni Applebaum, who's the editor at the
really more
Atlantic.
of a comment than a question, yes.
Yeah. But I'm going to end this with a statement, which is really remarkable. It's about Indiana.
All right. Well, that is always remarkable.
And he's talking. I guess this was the House hearing. No, it was the Senate hearing. It's the state senator. Senators voting today. In the hearing's closing moments, Senator Greg Walker, a Republican, described the harassment he received after declaring his early opposition to redistricting, including an unsolicited pizza delivery, a separate incident in which heavily armed police responded to a false emergency call.
Swatting.
He said he was fortunate because, unlike other Republicans, he doesn't have small children. I refuse to be intimidated, Walker said, reaffirming his intent to vote no. Through tears, he described holding a friend's newborn the night before, worrying about the world the child would inherit. I fear for this institution. I fear for the state of Indiana, and I fear for all states if we allow threats and intimidation to become the norm. Trump is a fascist, and it's just clear here how the Republican Party is operating. And yes, it may only be 30% of the Republican Party, but it's Stephen Miller who's the president of the United States right now because Trump is incapable, and it's scary.
You got a two-party system in America. You cut out some significant percentage of one of the parties because they're frustrated and angry and worried about being threatened all the time, and you lose everything election-wise, which is, I guess, why you stop having elections.
Right. So remember, there are posture votes in the Senate today on health care. There are important votes in the Indiana Senate on redistricting, and those are the two stories to follow, and you'll cover them tomorrow. And that's it for today for me. I'm done.
That's okay. Thank you. Bye. No, this is a good story. Interesting one from Indiana. Not certain how he ended up with his friend's newborn. I'm lucky I don't have small children around here because then we would really have some danger happening. Hey, bring your newborn over. I think he might have gone. Maybe he went and visited the newborn's family instead. But interesting also that he wouldn't say outright that his house was swatted. I guess maybe not everybody recognizes the term, but it sounds funny, an unsolicited pizza delivery as a method of intimidation. But that's the initial one where they say, we know where you live without sending you a note made out of magazine words that you cut up. We know where you live. You send them unsolicited pizza delivery. And then, of course, you follow it up by doing this swatting thing, right? The separate incident in which heavily armed police responded to a false emergency call to his home. And that's what we've been hearing about all along. So it's something. If they don't vote for my redistricting, my people will SWAT you. That's the message. And I'd fear for Indiana, too. And in fact, the whole country, just as Greg Walker has done.
Right. Oh, by the way, a technical thing there in Indiana.
Yeah.
It is a constitutional majority state. If all 10 Democrats vote no, and there's you need 26 Republicans to vote yes.
It is a what now? I'm confused.
You need 26 yes votes to make this happen.
Oh, okay.
And there were rumors that some Republican senators are sick and tired of this stuff, but don't want to vote no publicly, so they just won't show up.
Oh, okay. I see.
And if they don't show up, you still need 26 votes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. All right. And what was the terminology they were using?
If one senator is absent, the lieutenant governor cannot break a tie.
Okay.
And a 25-24 vote is not considered passage.
I see. I get you
now.
What
you can bring it back the next day, but the Senate doesn't meet the next day, so it wouldn't be till January.
Okay. Well, that's terminology I hadn't heard. What did you say? Constitutional
majority states. Got to be a majority.
I see. I got you now.
You need 26-24. I guess.
I was like, of course it's a constitutional majority state. Everybody's a constitutional majority. Oh, I see. No,
I guess
specifically
there's 50
speaking.
of them, so you have to have 26.
Yeah. Okay. So
25-24 vote won't do it.
Right.
You can break a tie. You can get 26 if it's 25-25. Lieutenant governor will break a tie.
Yeah.
But if it's 25-24, that won't do it.
About how to like quorum setting, right? You know, if you need to have a majority there. Okay. Well, it's not like a weird supermajority, but it is.
Yeah. I'm just saying. I'm throwing that procedural thing out because it may be that it doesn't pass because they didn't get enough votes, and the reason they didn't get enough votes is some people didn't show up.
Yeah. Like you could have a huge majority of the people who were there, but if there aren't enough people there, then it don't work. Or at least if not enough votes in favor. Got it. How about next week? All right, welcome back everyone to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We've had enough of the discharge petitions, but by the way, if your discharge continues for longer than 4 hours, please see a doctor, and that goes for just about anything. All right, so as I kept hinting all along in the show, there's some new developments on the piracy front, and I don't know if I even have anything. I think by the time I saw this story, it was happening yesterday, it was still developing, and there were no fully developed...
You lose!
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good day, sir!
Well, good day, sir. All right, I was trying to click a different button. A Zoom notice had come up that the Zoom call was over, and I was like, okay, we can dismiss that, but I guess you can just let it just sit there and go away, because by the time I clicked, it had disappeared, and instead the window under it was soundboard and the you lose good day, sir. All right. The trials and tribulations. We really just... Well, I could have just erased that from the podcast and pretended nothing happened, but what do I tell the rest of you? All right. So, now there will have been some fully developed stories written on the seizure of a Venezuelan oil tanker in the Caribbean. I don't have my stories lined up on it yet, because I kind of thought that was what we would be talking about, at least a little bit, with Greg, but there were other priorities that we wanted to get to. And everybody, I mean, by now, I'm sure you know the story that there's been an oil tanker seized. We've got, we'll take the New York Times article on it because we can, and it's here. U.S. steps up campaign against Maduro in seizing tanker off Venezuela, although it occurs to me that maybe I ought not to, in the first instance, opt for the New York Times coverage of it, given that they're going to say something dumb like that. Right. Stepping up a campaign against Maduro in seizing a tanker off Venezuela, as opposed to, for instance, interestingly, the Fox News headline that I see here, I'm sure they're writing it dismissively and saying, no, this isn't really the case, obviously, but they are putting it in their headline. They run with Venezuela's accusation here. Venezuela accuses U.S. of, quote, piracy, which it is, after seizing massive oil tanker. Like, what else is it, right? The tanker belongs to some company in Venezuela, and it was sailing, I guess, presumably on the open ocean somewhere. And the United States, well, in this case, the United States military, but I mean, I guess that's supposed to make a difference in maybe in the minds of Republicans. Like, well, yeah, but this is the U.S. military, not some ragtag bunch of yar guys speaking about shiver me timbers. That's what pirates are. But, well, look, anybody that says, I'm going to seize your private vessel here, not because I have any real property interest in it, but rather because I have more guns than you do, and do that on the high seas, that's going to be open to accusations of piracy. But the New York Times is going to say, well, they're escalating a campaign against Maduro. Well, it's a campaign that hasn't been authorized by Congress in any way, shape, or form. So, nothing about that. In the middle of the road, I guess, between Fox News, which backhandedly tells you the truth about what's happening, but only in order to dismiss it, and the New York Times that sort of normalizes it, is the CNN headline, U.S. seizes oil tanker off Venezuelan coast. I mean, that's just sort of flatly stating it that way. It doesn't normalize it, but it also doesn't say, hey, this is piracy. But it is. Anyway, so let me look at the CNN article about it. Adam Cancryn, maybe? Cancryn, unless it's Cancryn. I don't think it could possibly be that. Cancryn. And Kevin Liptak. Easy, except I just threw an extra half a second into his name for the hell of it. U.S. seizes oil tanker off Venezuelan coast. And it's illustrated with a still frame from video that was released, of course, by the United States Armed Forces, because they're happy to release the video of everything, except the one part that everybody says they want to see in the September 2nd strike. But other than that, any video you want of, I don't know which special forces they're using here, but the people are rappelling out of a helicopter in the, mid-ocean, but not into the ocean, but onto the deck of this oil tanker, which, presumably manned by a civilian crew, and, jumping out with all the weaponry and pointing their long rifles through the windows of the bridge of the ship, saying basically, I don't know if they tell them, turn off the engine, or we're taking your boat, or come out with your hands up. I don't know. Anyway, they're doing a lot of pointing. You never see what the other people are doing. And there you go. Flashy video as a recruitment tool for, look at this, we took over this boat. Like I said, no resistance, but it's as piratical as anything. I mean, they're literally using lines to, board the ship from another vessel. It's just that it doesn't have giant sails, and they have thrown hooks over the side and yar, prepare to be boarded, except that they did say that, prepared to be boarded, I'm sure, just without the yars. Anyway, it does, in fact, amount to piracy. I don't really know how else to say it. Here's the story from CNN, though. The United States seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela on Wednesday, President Donald Trump said, escalating U.S. pressure on President Nicolas Maduro's regime. Swap that with King Philip II of Spain. We're increasing pressure on his regime. As you know, or as you probably know, Trump. It's Trump. As you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela. It says on the coast of Venezuela, not off the coast of Venezuela. It's an interesting swap. of words for him there. Trump said, and of course, because it's Trump, large tanker, very large, largest one ever seized, actually, which might even be true because we just don't seize a lot of oil tankers. So, the odds are maybe it is the largest one ever seized, at least on the coast of Venezuela. Attorney General Pam Bondi said this is piracy and arrested Trump. Nope. She said the tanker had been sanctioned by the U.S. for multiple years, due to its involvement in an illicit oil shipping network supporting foreign terrorist organizations, including Venezuela, which is, I guess, a foreign terrorist organization now, and Iran, also a foreign terrorist organization. No, they may be related to foreign terrorist organizations. And also, they may not be. I mean, remember that, Venezuela, and they have a gang, and it's Trenderagua, and that means, and they're terrorists, and so they may or may not have anything to do with the government. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But it's not the government. I don't know where Iran comes into it. But I guess this tanker carries, they're in a business of shipping oil. They should have plenty of work just shipping Venezuelan oil around, but, maybe they picked up a contract to move some Iranian oil. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, and if there was maybe a network of shipping outfits that are like, look, if we're based in one of these countries, and there's a bunch of oil-producing countries that are constantly finding themselves under sanctions from the United States, but everyone else in the world wants their oil, and we got to find a way to get around the United States. All right, so none of the United States tankers are going to carry oil from Venezuela or Iran. There's probably money to be made operating oil tankers and say, we'll take your oil around. It's okay. Anyway, so I guess maybe that's it. And so it's possible. It adds some interest to the story, I guess, if in fact this is a ship that's been under sanctions for a long time and a number of years. And I could see the Trump administration guys saying, we're going to act like this thing has been under sanctions for a long time, back through, of course, the Biden administration. But sanctions, that doesn't mean anything without action. We're going to be the one that seizes this thing. I could see it developing that way. Bondi posted a video on X showing armed personnel, whoever they may be, rappelling onto the ship from a helicopter, then moving on deck with guns drawn. She said the FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, and the U.S. Coast Guard conducted the seizure with support from the Department of War, as they call it, which tells me nothing. It doesn't clarify whose personnel were doing this. Are you telling me it was possibly FBI guys? It was possibly Homeland Security guys that were rappelling down? The Coast Guard? It's the wrong coast. They're off the Venezuela coast. But with support from the Department of War. Does that just mean, SEAL Team 6 did this, but, we asked them to. So that means FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, and the U.S. Coast Guard all asked somebody else to do this. The seizure came as Venezuelan opposition leader and Nobel laureate Maria Corina Machado, we got to read more about her, touched down in Oslo. She turned up, after all, after she defied a travel ban and fled the country. I was wondering, we left off in reading, in the early stages, the story of the weirdness of her having been granted the Nobel Peace Prize in the first place, but also weird she hadn't shown up to get it. And then I thought, well, maybe not so weird. It probably happens more often with Nobel Peace Prize than with others, especially if you are winning the Nobel Peace Prize for being in opposition to your home government. They may not let you leave to go get the award. I thought that might be what was going on, but she made it there, but she did so in defiance of a travel ban. So President Trump did not offer any detailed explanation for the move, the seizure, that is, not the attendance at the award ceremony, saying only that the vessel was seized for very good reason. Like most of you people probably thought it was for a bad reason, but as it turns out, it was for good reason, and not just good, very good reason. And really, by the way, I should change his voice in all of this. It is piracy. I don't know how you differentiate this sort of unauthorized seizure on the open seas from other kinds. Republicans will stick with them for a little bit longer, right? You normally say, well, I've seen pirate movies, and usually the people who are fighting the pirates are the Royal Navy. So that means that they're the good guys, even though obviously if you're watching, say, Pirates of the Caribbean, they write the story so that the pirates are the good guys somehow, which is amazing and probably bad. And we're normalizing piracy, and we shouldn't be doing that. But are we really normalizing it if it has involves so much weirdness and magic? And I don't know. Well, maybe. Anyway, but yeah, if you're thinking, well, pirates are unorganized people who are non-state actors, whereas navies, those are state actors, and so that's therefore good. It used to be the case that was true, and you could depend on the United States Navy to be on the side of right, even when they weren't. But you were conditioned to think of them as being on the side of right because they were acting on behalf of the United States of America, and everyone knows that's truth, justice, and the American way, and they never do things like, allow their ships to be attacked or stage attacks against their ships as pretext for war, except that they do. But, leaving that aside, the expectation for most people is if the United States Navy is doing it, that's kind of official, and even in other countries, as long as it's not an S-hole country, is doing it, it's kind of on the up and up. Unless, of course, you are also dedicated to a program of committing war crimes with that Navy, which is where we kind of are at this moment. And so it may be that the U.S. Navy is the bad guys in all of this. It's difficult to tell for sure. But I say that it's piratical, not just because of the unauthorized seizure, but because at some point, well, here in this paragraph, we find out President Trump did not offer any detailed explanation, just saying it was for very good reason. And then, good follow-up question, asked what would happen to the oil that the tanker was transporting. Trump said, we keep it, I guess. Well, that's pretty piratical. The seizure occurred in international waters, a senior U.S. official said, and proceeded without incident or casualties among either the U.S. personnel or the tanker's crew. Nobody even sprained an ankle on their way down from the rappelling lines. The ship, which was headed to Cuba, was ultimately destined for Asia after being brokered through Cuban sellers, the senior official said, adding that additional seizures are possible in the coming weeks as the U.S. applies pressure on Maduro. The vessel, named the Skipper, it's interesting too. The companion ship, the Gilligan, is right behind it. I'm sure we're going to seize that as well. And it was carrying Venezuelan crude, by which we mean crude oil, not just crude people from Venezuela. The official said the Skipper, previously named the Adisa, A-D-I-S-A, was sanctioned by the U.S. in 2022, Biden, for facilitating oil trades for... This would be, relatively good reason for sanctioning them. Facilitating oil trades for Hezbollah and Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force. In response to questions from CNN, Trump said he had not spoken to Maduro recently, no surprise, and declined to say who owns the seized tanker. But if his name is bin Laden, I'm sure we'll be hearing from him shortly. Or if his name is bin Salman. Anyway, the Venezuelan government said it strongly denounces the seizure, that's, I guess, to be expected, and described the move as an act of international piracy, which I guess it could be considered that way. In a statement on Wednesday, in these circumstances, the true reasons for the prolonged aggression against Venezuela have finally been revealed, the statement said. It is not migration, it is not drug trafficking, it is not democracy, it is not human rights. It has always been about our natural wealth, our oil, our energy, the resources that belong exclusively to the Venezuelan people. Venezuela said it would appeal the seizure to all existing international bodies. The U.S. is now months into its pressure campaign on Venezuela that has included moving thousands of troops and a carrier strike group into the Caribbean, strikes on suspected drug boats, and repeated threats against Maduro. So far, the U.S. military has killed 87 people in strikes that have destroyed 23 alleged drug boats, and Trump has repeatedly suggested action on land could come soon. And of course, lots of people observing, well, it is interesting that you seized the oil ship but blew up the drug boats. But this does prove that you can interdict and seize the boats. Although, it's one thing if you're going to seize the boats by helicopter dropping people onto the deck and then they take over it, that's a little easier to do at a certain speed and with a certain size of boat like a tanker. Whereas, can you rappel onto one of these little speedboats? No. But you can surround it with fast ships of your own and demand that they surrender. It's an option. Anyway, CNN has reported the Trump administration is working on day-after plans in the event Maduro is ousted from power, somehow. According to two senior administration officials and another source familiar with the discussions, Maduro did not address the seized tanker in a speech Wednesday that was occurring as news of the U.S.'s move was circulating. Next section here. Tanker hid its location, satellite imager shows. That's an interesting piece of information, too. And it is interesting. We should read this because this is where we'll get all the information that somewhat differentiates it from just open piracy. Like the fact that there was a sanctions regime in place against, presumably, the tanker itself, and maybe the ownership of the tanker, but it had never been enforced in any way. I guess this is as good a time as any. But the Biden administration never seized the tanker because it would create an international incident. It was enough to sanction it and say, well, we've marked them for, you're bad guys. But it isn't very effective against anything. So Trump will be pointing this as saying, we're putting muscle and teeth behind sanctions. All right. And then in addition, they'll say, well, there were no angels. They were hiding its location for some reason. According to satellite imagery and shipping data reviewed by CNN, the skipper hid its true location while docked at a Venezuelan oil terminal last month. It said it was on a 3-hour tour. It was, in fact, at this oil terminal, I guess. On November 18th, the skipper was seen it's so funny. The skipper, seen on satellite imagery, docked around 7 miles from the coastal Venezuelan city of Barcelona, not Spain, but Venezuela, according to a satellite image provided by Planet Labs, or Planet Labs, I'm not sure which. The latter pronunciation evokes ideas of a planet entirely inhabited by Labrador retrievers. Not a bad idea. Anyway, at the same time, the ship's automatic identification system, or AIS, transponder was indicating that it was located 560 miles away off the coast of Georgetown in Guyana. Well, analysts say oil tankers sometimes spoof their AIS location as an attempt to hide questionable or illegal activities. Maybe. The tanker was flying a Guyana flag, presumably also known as a Guyanan flag, but okay, despite not being registered in Guyana, the country's Maritime Administration Department said in a statement posted to Facebook. And is that Guyana saying that? Okay. Prior to arriving in Venezuela, the skipper docked in Egypt, the UAE, and Hong Kong, according to shipping data. Early in July, it appeared to loiter less than 15 miles off Iran's coast for several days. So they're clearly doing oil shipping, both among countries that we would consider to be legitimate shippers of oil, UAE at least, and I guess targets of legitimate sanctions like Iran. And I suppose you could say that sanctions regime against Venezuela might be legitimate too. I don't know. Cuba, the tanker's intended next destination, has already been grappling with some of the worst power outages in decades, with blackouts stretching for hours, sometimes days. Cuba's foreign minister called the seizure an aggressive escalation. In a post to X, the communist-run island, communism, its aging energy infrastructure is dependent on oil imports, often in the form of donations coming from allies like Venezuela, Russia, and Mexico. So it could be pressure, it could be considered pressure both on Venezuela and Cuba at the same time. So kind of a twofer. All right. So like I said, there's reason to believe that such a seizure you might have called it out earlier and said the sanctions are long-standing from a previous administration as well. I guess what really threw things into chaos was Trump, basically having no information whatsoever and then just winging it, saying, I guess we keep the oil. And it might even be that we keep the oil, even under the old sanctions regime, approved by the Biden administration, it might be that we keep the oil. I just don't know. But it was so cavalier the way he was putting it that, it makes you wonder about what the difference is between some sort of official policy and just outright piracy, as the Venezuelans call it. So, there's that. By the way, that brings up something. I think we've played this on the show before, right? Haven't we given you this? It's a spoof Schoolhouse Rock video. It's not real, but it's in that style. And it's called Pirates and Emperors. And I don't know which one of these things is going to get. Maybe this version won't have a commercial in it. Let's try this one and see if.
Customize!
No, it does have, in fact. And of course, if it's Liberty Mutual, just like we thought. And it really should come up muted. So, all right, we'll do that and we'll mute the commercial for a few seconds and talk about it. And, like I said, Liberty Mutual, blah, 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 we'll give them their due. And then the actual video will come up, I think, at this point. We'll pause it and turn up the sound. There we go. We've missed the beginning here. We do this thing professionally. All right, let's run this thing. You remember this?
Well, our story begins, with old St. Augustine. Way back in days of old, he reported on this theme. A mighty emperor had caught himself a pirate who was terrorizing people who were sailing on the open seas.
What meanest thou by keeping hostile possession of the sea? What meanest thou by seizing the whole earth? Because I do it with a petty ship, I'm called a robber, whilst thou, who does the same with a great fleet, art styled emperor.
And old St. Augustine thought that was a pretty smart answer.
Isn't it interesting? Okay, so you remember this, and maybe. And if you haven't, I'll give you the link to go and take a look at it. And it's very good, and it makes the point. Pirates and emperors, well, sometimes they can be pretty much the same thing. And in addition, this is actually like a 20-year-old video, I think. It's been on YouTube for 20 years. Maybe it's even older than that. And it makes reference to certain aspects of Central American politics of the day, including the Contras. And, that makes it even that much more interesting. But all right. Well, now we're getting a little bit more detail, and it really required more detail at the time, and it was a conscious decision by the Trump administration to just say, let the president wing it, and let that be the first announcement of things, as opposed to, in normal administrations, you would make a very measured statement in an official capacity in a way designed to deflect the accusations that you're merely engaging in open sea piracy. But Trump could go with that direction and just decide that he wants to keep taunting Venezuela, and who cares if they think it's piracy, and I'm going to be Orange Beard the pirate. And he doesn't really have a beard per se, but orange face, I guess, the pirate, and just start talking like a pirate, but in his voice, just saying piratey thing. Yar. Everybody, yar. They're all saying yar. People, to be honest, they're shivering their timbers like you've never seen before. It's a world record holding shivering of the timbers, honestly. And then we swab the decks, so beautiful and clean. I don't know. I'd like to see him talk like a pirate, and to change why Trump is redefining Talk Like a Pirate Day. As bold a move as has ever been made by any president anywhere, really. All right. So there we have it. Just wanted to get out there that is happening, and that people are accusing the United States of piracy. It's been a long time since that's been happening. And now we'll catch up on a couple of other interesting things, including, that would be a rather long read to try to fit in. And given that the alarm's going to go off fairly shortly. All right. Let me give you long story short then, on a story covered once again by the New York Times, which I'm sure is worth reading in depth. But I did see somebody just get straight to the heart of the point on Blue Sky saying, if you were wondering, about the weird idea that FIFA had the other day about awarding Trump a made-up peace prize, the first annual, FIFA Peace Prize that also came not only with a golden trophy, but also had a golden medal along with it that you could put around your neck. And he did, in fact, put it around his own neck right in the middle of the so-called ceremony. But if you're wondering about the timing or why was FIFA doing this and what were they going to get out of it, and after all, the deal had already been struck about holding the World Cup in the United States. Was there really more money to be extracted here? Somebody points out, hold it up with the timing of this story, now reported in the New York Times. U.S. moves to drop charges in international soccer corruption case. As it turns out, FIFA officials involved in, and in fact, I guess convicted of some criminal bribery cases. Hey, guess what? We're not going to be prosecuting you after all, or maybe we'll even pardon you. Hi, it's me, David. I mostly do the commercials around here, too. Have you ever thought you'd like to do a show like this one, but a lot shorter? Maybe without necessarily waking up early each day, or even, let's say, working at it each day? Well, now you can, sort of, and by now, I mean pretty much any time you want, because what I'm talking about is you recording a news story, sharing an essay, or otherwise contributing your thoughts on these crazy times with the rest of us, and with any digital recording device. Make the show your own, as I like to say. Send me a digital file of your recording, a link to any source material, and a note about how you'd like to be identified on the air at KagroX, that's KAGROX, at gmail.com, and I'll take it from there. Don't worry about those ums and ahs either. I sure don't, but I'll even do my best to edit your submission down into a nice-sounding dispatch from the field. So come on, everybody, make the show your own. Help me prove once and for all that I'm not just imagining this audience. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. So, yes, let's tell you a little bit about what's going on. I was a little bit confused as we were, and we were running out of time before the break, about the nature of what's gone on here, because the headline on the New York Times article that I have is U.S. moves to drop charges in international soccer corruption case, which is usually something, it's the kind of phrasing you use when you're saying, all right, well, we're not going to prosecute this at all. We're not going to put you in legal danger any longer, versus what I see immediately in the subheader, which is that the person involved, Hernan Lopez, by the way, also a former Fox executive, and an Argentine sports marketing company alongside Hernan Lopez, were convicted in 2023 of bribing officials to secure soccer broadcast rights. So I guess maybe they were convicted. And so when they say, all right, well, they were convicted in 2023. Well, dropping the charges, does that really do anything now? You've been convicted. Why would anybody drop the charges? It may be that they're dropping the charges, if there were any, against the FIFA officials. We'll have to read the article, who received the bribes. But in the meantime, they've already convicted the guys who gave the bribes. Maybe. Is there a pardon in the offering for them? I don't know. I mean, Argentine sports marketing company. Are they connected to Milei? In which case, maybe yes, they get pardoned. Or is that even a thing that you could do? I don't know. All right, let's look at the article. Santul Nerkar and Ken Bensinger are the writers on the piece. Federal prosecutors in Brooklyn. This all did happen in Brooklyn. Okay. Have moved to drop charges against a former Fox employee who was convicted of scheming to pay millions of dollars in bribes in exchange for the lucrative broadcast rights to soccer tournaments. That does nothing to clear up the chronology. It was the latest turnabout in a case that exposed corruption at the highest levels of international sports. Which levels? The highest. Because we wouldn't be interested in anything else. Hernan Lopez, who was the chief executive of a unit that was responsible for developing Fox's sports broadcasting business in Latin America, was convicted in 2023 of money laundering conspiracy and wire fraud conspiracy. Two different types of conspiracy, apparently. the wire fraud type and the money laundering type. Prosecutors had said Mr. Lopez conspired to pay off the heads of national federations to win the rights to broadcast 2 South American soccer tournaments. But on Tuesday, Joseph Nocella Jr., the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, and we assume he's the U.S. Attorney there. We don't know for sure. I mean, when they say it that way, that makes it sound like he's been confirmed by the United States Senate. Maybe he has been, but maybe that was done fraudulently. We don't know. Maybe he's not a citizen of the United States. We don't know. Maybe he's really a Russian in disguise. Maybe he's not the U.S. Attorney. Maybe he's an acting U.S. Attorney. Maybe he's an interim U.S. Attorney. Maybe all of that is illegal. I don't know. You don't know. There's no way of knowing. But it is said, it is alleged that Joseph Nocella Jr. is the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, and that on Tuesday he wrote in a letter to the judge who oversaw the case against Mr. Lopez and the Argentine marketing firm convicted along with him, Full Play Group, that dismissing it was in the interest of justice. What an interesting thing to do after the conviction, though. It's not, I mean, they may also be considering a pardon, but it's not being discussed in terms of a pardon. Dismissing the charges upon which someone has already been convicted, which I guess you could do if you have new evidence that's exculpatory and you want, I mean, I guess it's a thing you can do. It's just, it wasn't what I was expecting to see. In a statement on Wednesday, Mr. Lopez said he was, quote, gratified by the request to dismiss the charges and called the case against him baseless from the start, minus the conviction. That is. Full Play declined to comment through a lawyer, and they're not in jail. I don't know where Lopez is. It was another dramatic swing in a case that arose from a Justice Department investigation into corruption by international soccer officials. That happens all the time. And several of those investigated over the many years that they've been doing this have lived in Trump Tower, Earth's Mos Eisley. Okay, so federal investigators began probing corruption at FIFA, soccer's international governing body, in 2010. But the case burst into the open with a series of high-profile arrests in Switzerland in 2015. And we've been kind of sort of keeping an eye on all the FIFA corruption cases here on the show because so many of them intersect with Trump and Trump world players in so many places that it's actually of interest to us. They don't outline them here, not yet anyway, but the investigation rocked the world of global soccer. Mr. Lopez and Full Play were indicted 5 years later and convicted in March of 2023 after a 7-week trial. So 5 years later. High-profile arrests in 2015. 5 years later will be 2020, so we're talking about all of 2020 was the Trump administration. So they were indicted under the Trump administration, but convicted late in the Biden administration. So there you go. So the initial probe launched under 2010 under the Obama administration, arrests in Switzerland under the Obama administration, but with Trump just probably beginning to declare his candidacy, coming down the golden escalator, depending on what time in 2015, indicted under the end of the Trump administration, convicted in the Biden administration. It's a long time coming. Prosecutors said that Mr. Lopez took part in a scheme to make secret payments worth millions of dollars to secure the broadcast rights to the Copa Libertadores, and the Copa Sudamericana tournaments. Full Play, according to prosecutors, engaged in a scheme to pay bribes to soccer officials for the rights to multiple events over a period of years. Mr. Lopez also helped Fox beat out ESPN to win the rights to broadcast the Men's World Cup in 2018 and 2022, prosecutors said. Fox has denied involvement in the scheme and was never accused of wrongdoing by prosecutors. How do you like that? So, by the way, the 2018 World Cup, was that the one that was in Russia? I can't, hell if I remember these things, but where did they, you don't tell me where that was. I got to go open Wikipedia. Yeah, there we go. Russia, 2018. So just letting you know that the bribery that took place was, at least with respect to World Cup broadcast rights, began with, mysteriously, the broadcasts from Russia. That was the first time that anybody thought, let's just do this by bribe, I guess. Or at least the first time people got caught doing it, more likely. Mr. Lopez's conviction was vacated. Oh, there we are. Vacated 6 months after the jury verdict by Judge Pamela K. Chen, who ruled that the federal wire fraud statute under which he was charged had been wrongfully applied. Her ruling cited a Supreme Court decision on that statute that was handed down after the trial ended. But Judge Chen's ruling was overturned in July, and the conviction against Mr. Lopez and full play was reinstated after a panel of judges from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit decided that the judge had erred. This is some saga. So again, convicted in 2023, then 6 months later, overturned. Also Biden administration. But then the judge's ruling that the wire fraud statute charges should be dismissed was overturned during the Trump administration. So great. They probably thought, oh, leverage. We can take a bribe and then drop the charges and then pardon the guy. All right. In September, Mr. Lopez asked the Supreme Court to hear his appeal, arguing that the Honest Services wire fraud statute that was used to convict him did not apply to crimes committed outside the United States and, quote, simply does not criminalize foreign commercial bribery. And I know that's the new preferred position of the Trump administration, right? One of the federations that Mr. Lopez was convicted of bribing was headquartered in Paraguay, where his lawyers said commercial bribery was not a crime. South America has different cultural norms and customs of gift giving than the United States, Mr. Lopez's lawyer wrote. All right. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. But that is usually the rationale given for the Trump administration's opposition to the, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, saying it puts us at commercial disadvantage. We can't give bribes out there. But, you know, the pro law and order side usually is, yeah, well, we do this legally to protect you from being extorted for bribes. You can always fall back on saying, I can't comply with your request for a bribe. I'll be in legal trouble in my country. We have to find another way of doing this. Mr. Lopez, who is a citizen of both the United States and Argentina, and by the way, there are Republicans out there sponsoring bills in Congress now to require that people drop their dual citizenships if they want to retain an American citizenship. So we're just throwing that out there. Lopez founded the podcasting company Wondery after leaving Fox. That company was sold to Amazon, miraculously, in late 2020 for a reported $300 million. So that'll pay for a lot of defense. To promote his Supreme Court appeal, Mr. Lopez retained a high-end strategic communications firm, FGS Global, which has spent almost $9 million so far this year lobbying the federal government for clients including the NFL and Paramount Skydance, interestingly enough, according to federal records. Federal prosecutors who have for years fought vigorously against overturning the jury convictions in the long-running case did not offer a reason for seeking a dismissal. So there you go. Another interesting change in the department, the DOJK, Department of Just Kidding. Federal prosecutors have long fought against overturning these jury convictions, but have changed their mind and given no reason for it all of a sudden. The Department of Justice, DOJK, says, to hell with all of our work. Never mind, don't look over here that FIFA officials are giving you golden awards to the president. Don't look over here that the lobbyist who's asking for us to overturn these convictions is also the lobbyist for Paramount Skydance, which is trying to buy everything under the sun, including Warner Brothers and CNN and CBS and God knows what else. Never mind all of that. None of these things intersect. Look away. Okay. So, no reason given for seeking dismissal, saying only that it was, quote, in the interests of justice. Sure. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York declined to comment further. Under President Trump, the Justice Department has moved to prioritize prosecutions of violent crime and immigration cases over white-collar matters, but the prosecution was over, so leave it alone. Mr. Trump, for his part, had pardoned numerous individuals convicted of bribery and fraud. In a filing on Tuesday, D. John Sauer, the Solicitor General, asked the Supreme Court to hear Mr. Lopez's appeal, reverse the appeals court's decision, and return the case to Judge Chen, who could then dismiss it. In theory, she could refuse to abide by the government's wishes, but such instances are exceedingly rare. In February, a federal judge in New York delayed dismissing the case against Mayor Eric Adams, for instance, after the Justice Department sought to drop its corruption charges, but eventually elected to do so. In 2020, Judge Emmett G. Sullivan in Washington appointed a former federal judge to advise him on whether to dismiss the conviction of the former National Security Advisor Michael T. Flynn. T stands for the Notorious International Spy, Michael the International Spy Flynn, who had pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI. The former judge he hired, John Gleeson, argued vigorously against doing so, saying it would reduce the district court to a rubber stamp. But after Mr. Trump pardoned Mr. Flynn, Judge Sullivan dismissed the case. Notably, Mr. Gleeson served as Mr. Lopez's lead lawyer. I'll try this again. Gleeson served as Lopez's lead lawyer for his appeal of the FIFA case. Gleason's everywhere here, I guess. Mr. Gleeson did not respond to a request for comment on Wednesday, but Josh Dubin, another lawyer on the case, argued that Mr. Flynn's case was not comparable to Mr. Lopez's. The trial court got this right in throwing the case out in the first place, and we are glad that its correct application of Supreme Court precedent will prevail, Mr. Dubin said. So, just, another weird intersection of everybody shady in the entire world, moving freely through Trump world and collecting millions of dollars along the way. Speaking of which, a story I hadn't brought up yet, but has been languishing here in Instapaper somewhere, has got a new companion story, and I'm just going to scroll and see if I can't find the original story, but I guess it's far enough back here that here we go. I'll give you the original story, and we'll do that quickly. And it's from Popular Info, which is Judd Legum's operation, I think. But this story is written by Rebecca Crosby and Noel Sims. Update. There's an update to the original story, which isn't the update I was going to bring you, but maybe they update it with this second story. All right. So the original story had an update of its own. Trump Jr., Don Jr., Trump Jr. backed startup receives $620 million Pentagon loan. Hey, that is a story. I don't know whether I have something earlier than this, and this update I then planted in Instapaper or as well, or did I just say, this is the first I've heard of it? I'm not sure. But one day we'll sort through what's sitting in Instapaper and find out. Let me read you this bit from Popular Information. This, by the way, dated December 4th, this updated piece. So, let's see, about a week ago here at this point. In October, Popular Information, maybe this is what I'm remembering. In October, Popular Information reported that the Pentagon awarded a contract to Unusual Machines.
That's unusual!
It is, really, by the way, an unusual thing. But that's the name of the company. Pentagon awarded a contract to Unusual Machines, an obscure drone company that, as it happens, President Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., joined as an advisor in November of 2024, despite having no notable experience with drones or military contracting. But, he has got a name that tends to draw attention in military contracting circles, let's say. The contract was for manufacturing of 3,500 drone motors. And the Army also indicated it planned to order an additional 20,000 components from Unusual Machines next year.
That's unusual!
It is, indeed. Please stop interrupting. Trump Jr. was given 200,000 shares of the company's stock in 2024, which, of course, are now worth millions, based, of course, on their ability to miraculously win Pentagon contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It may be that I parked the original story from October somewhere way back in Instapaper. Anyway, now another small startup funded by 1789 Capital, which is the venture capital firm where Trump Jr. is a partner, will receive a $620 million loan, wink, wink, from the Defense Department, the Financial Times reported. Vulcan Elements, which currently has around 30 employees, produces, you'll never believe it, rare earth magnets, which can be used in drones, radar systems, and other military applications. The contract was awarded just 3 months after 1789 invested in Vulcan. That is an amazing coincidence as well. What a quick turnaround in his investment. The loan is part of a larger $1.4 billion deal announced last month that also involves another company, and that company is ReElement Technologies. It also, that may or may not be relevant to anything, we'll find out. It also includes $50 million from the Commerce Department and $550 million from private investors. In exchange, the Department of Commerce will receive $50 million of equity in Vulcan Elements. Oh boy, another picking of winners and losers. The Department of Defense will receive warrants for Vulcan Elements, an option to buy a stake in the future. According to a press release, both Vulcan CEO John Maslin and Unusual Machines CEO Alan Evans said that Trump Jr. played no role in securing the government contracts. That's why we gave him 200,000 shares. He didn't play any role. See, that totally makes it less suspect. According to the Financial Times, at least 4 of 1789's portfolio companies have won contracts from the Trump administration this year, amounting to more than $735 million. That is fortunate. Trump Jr. helped screen candidates for top jobs at the Pentagon on behalf of his father after the election. As it turns out, in September, Trump Jr. said on his podcast that he looked for candidates who wanted to spend more on drones. That is an amazing coincidence. Alleging, of course, that the military is better served with a drone that costs a tiny fraction of that of a plane. But I don't sell planes, so, I do sell drones. During the nomination process, Trump Jr. was also an outspoken defender of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who later issued several directives that enabled the Pentagon to increase spending on products that Donald Trump Jr. sells. Drones, of course. All right. So that's all very interesting. And by the way, I guess there's another element added here, although I think it's actually another subject area. But it is about Trump family grift, and it's appended onto this piece here. So we'll add it in because I think it makes a certain amount of sense. Trump family crypto scheme runs into trouble. I didn't even realize that. As Trump has boosted the crypto industry from the White House by softening regulations and creating a national crypto reserve, he and his sons, how crazy is that, have raked in cash from their own crypto firm, World Liberty Financial. Look, if the government's spending money on drones, then I've got a drone company. If the government's spending money on crypto, then I got myself a crypto company as well. What else you got? In August, World Liberty Financial sold $750 million of WLFI, dollar sign WLFI. That's Liberty Financial, I guess, World Liberty Financial, International or Incorporated. The firm's cryptocurrency is this WLFI. $750 million worth of it to a small tech company called Alt5 Sigma. Alt5 Sigma bought the stockpile of WLFI to tie the value of its stock to the value of that cryptocurrency. This move mimicked a firm called Strategy, which created a Bitcoin reserve that initially sent its stock price soaring. The tactic has since fallen out of favor, and Strategy's stock has lost about 50% of its value in the last 6 months, but they don't care. When Alt 5 Sigma created its WLFI stockpile, the Trump family netted about $500 million in cash and received an equity stake in the company. According to the World Liberty Financial website, DT Marks DEFI LLC. DT Marks DeFi LLC receives 75% of the proceeds from that coin, WLFI. DT, Donald Trump. Get it? At the start of 2025, 70% of this LLC was owned by President Trump, and the rest was divided among family members. So Trump's owned it all. The family sold an unknown amount of the company earlier this year. How interesting. At the time of the deal, Trump Jr. was made a non-voting observer of Alt 5 Sigma's board. His brother Eric is currently listed as a strategic advisor and observer. Zach Witkoff, World Liberty Financial CEO. Do you recognize the name? Zach Witkoff? Zach Witkoff, World Liberty Financial CEO and son of Trump's Middle East envoy and Russia envoy, Steve Witkoff, is the board's chair. 3 months after the deal with World Liberty Financial, the company finds itself in chaos. On November 19th, NASDAQ notified the company that it is out of compliance with listing requirements after the company failed to file a quarterly report with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Failure to resolve the issue could result in the stock being delisted from the exchange, or Witkoff owning the exchange. I don't know which. The company removed its acting CEO last month. Ooh, an acting CEO. I didn't even realize that was the case. After firing his predecessor in October. In May, a subsidiary of the company was found liable for money laundering in Rwanda. Alt 5 Sigma blamed the delayed report on its accountant, who the company claims resigned on November 21st. I wonder why. However, the accountant has said he notified the company before June 30th that he would resign after the filing of an August quarterly report. Public companies are required to notify the SEC of their accountant's departure within 4 days. Adding to Alt 5 Sigma's troubles, cryptocurrency prices have tumbled in recent weeks, causing stock prices of firms with crypto reserves to fall as well. Alt 5 Sigma shares have gone down in value by 75% since it created its WLFI reserve. Although the Trump stake in Alt 5 Sigma has lost value, they will still have made hundreds of millions of dollars from the company's initial WLFI purchase. So, we got that circulating at the same time. Now, back to Instapaper here, because somewhere up here near the top, I have this information. Is this a yet another thing here? Oh, well, it seems to mention one of the same companies, but let's see whether this is new information. From the Asia Times, I have another Trump Jr.-backed company receives massive Pentagon deal. Is this the same one, rehashed, or not? This is a December 9th piece. One legal expert said the contract, quote, falls under the cloud of conflicts of interest we have seen throughout this administration. Brad Reed is the writer of this piece for Asia Times. For the second time this year, a little-known company backed by Donald Trump Jr. has scored a major contract with the Department of Defense. Oh, okay. It is the same one, in fact. Okay. Well, then we can jump out here, but that one that they mentioned, Financial Times reported that Vulcan Elements, the tiny startup of 30 employees that does the rare earth magnets for drones, scored the $620 million loan from the Pentagon. And then we'll find out later, I'm sure, that, by the way, we forgive that loan. You don't have to repay it. Just keep the money. Is there something else here? I don't think so. Oh, look. Well, there's a citation to As Popular Information reported earlier this year on the unusual machines situation. So nice to see them getting credit for that one. But okay, I guess that means we're up to date. So Unusual Machines and Vulcan, what was it? Vulcan Technologies or Vulcan Elements, I guess. Two ways that Donald Trump Jr. is using to siphon money out of the Defense Department. Oh, I'm sorry, War Department. And keep it for himself. And so I guess it is with that in mind that we can also make mention of the fact that Greg mentioned the other day that they did, in fact, just pass the National Defense Authorization Act the other day, a $900 billion defense bill passed by the House. Good news for people who are looking to siphon one or two of those billions off for themselves through weird, strange, or otherwise unusual contracts for unusual machines that they know nothing about and have no expertise in one way or the other. But they are going to get an enormous amount of money. And I guess pretty soon we'll see Trump launching some sort of oil company, I guess, to be the one contracted by the federal government to sell off the seized Venezuelan oil. I don't know whether they're going to try to put that in escrow or something, or just sell it and keep it, or whether it's going to be used to pay for the ballroom in the White House. I have no idea. We'll have to wait and see how they decide to dispose with this stuff. All right. We're on our way out the door here, but I do want to mention Greg had sent along notice after his segment that he had seen on social media that there was breaking news. Kilmar Abrego Garcia has been ordered released by a federal judge in Maryland, finding the government lacks a valid order to remove him. So that's good news. And I guess he stays here and gets released from ICE custody. I didn't realize he was back in ICE custody, but, that's his life these days, back in and out of custody. Maybe they'll come up with something else. But they're seizing just about everybody. Maybe tomorrow we can get into some of the stories of other American citizens finding themselves scooped up off the street and ICE uninterested in even seeing their papers and coming up with the idea instead that they want to use an app that uses facial recognition to decide whether or not you're a citizen. I don't think any such app exists.
You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, there's really no reason to use an app like that, especially if you're all carrying around passports and real IDs. They literally made everybody in the country go and get one of these real IDs, and then they won't even look at it instead. All right, well, that and much more coming up next, I'm sure, as Justice Putnam takes the wheel for the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Let's see what he's got in store for you. We'll see you tomorrow.